cafeteria. So we're, again, a very global group. So thank you so much for joining us today for Women's Empowerment Principles 101 webinar. My name is Miwa Park, and I'm the WEPs coordinator at Women's Empowerment Principles Global Secretariat at UN Women. As the WEP's Global Secretariat is located in New York, most of our webinars from the HQ is happening in the morning time in the US, which is very late for everyone in this part of the world. So I'm very pleased to offer this special session in a different time zone that are much more friendlier to Asia Pacific and other parts of the globe. So I hope today's webinar will be an opportunity for those who haven't signed the WEPs yet to learn about the 7 principles, some of the different WEPs tools and inspiration to sign on through hearing from our signatories. With that said, anyone is welcome to join us today to learn about what are the 7 principles of the WEPs and of course hear from our WEP signatories. So let me take you through today's agenda. Firstly, I'll deliver opening remarks on behalf of Anna Falt. She's the Global Head of WEP Secretariat at UN Women, who couldn't be here today as it's very late for her in New York. But after the remarks, I'll invite my colleague Amy Baum. She's the Program Specialist for Women's Economic Empowerment at UN Women's Asia Pacific Regional Office, who is leading the WEPs work in the region. And Amy will walk you through the 7 principles of the WEPs and the WEPs journey. Then I'll take over stage to showcase some of the WEPs tools that's available for WEP signatories and how to become a WEP signatory. After the spectra, we'll hear from 3 WEP signatories from Asia Pacific and beyond to share their WEPs journey, and we will have Q&A session at the end. Then we'll close today's session, so please stay tuned at the very end, until the very end. So now moving on to some logistical reminder. So this webinar is being recorded and later will be uploaded to website.org website and it will be publicly available. We have the Zoom translation feature available for today's webinar. So in the webinar, you can click on Show Captions, or it's called CC, on the Zoom toolbar, and you can select your language. So I'd like to let you know that we'd also love to hear from you. So throughout the webinar, please feel free to write your questions to the panelists in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to communicate with other participants, you can use the chat function, and your questions will be answered throughout the webinar or during the Q&A session. So now let us move to the opening remarks from Anna. So welcome to our third WEPs 101 webinar of 2025. 2025 is a very special year. It commemorates 30 years since the world convened to craft the historic agreement that envisioned the world where every woman and girl would live free from discrimination, violence, and inequality. This agreement, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, remains the global roadmap for advancing gender equality and the rights of all women and girls everywhere. It's from this intergovernmental agreement that Women's Empowerment Principles were born 15 years ago to help the private sector contribute to this global agenda. So today's webinar will go deeper into the 7 principles and the resources we provide companies on their WEPs journey. Before doing so, let me talk briefly about a recurrent theme being discussed, that of corporate leadership. So there have been many efforts to define and conceptualize what it means. What does leadership mean? What traits are required by the leaders in today's complex world? We talk about authentic leadership, inclusive leadership, value-based leadership, responsible leadership. So these discussions are about the traits of modern leader and align well with the values of the WEPs. It's about actively engaging and balancing the interests of internal and external stakeholders, with leaders taking clear responsibility and accountability for business decisions that affect them. It's also about taking a long-term approach for sustainability of the business, society, and the environment and the planet. So what does it mean in more practical terms for you who's here today? So it's about being committed, accountable to gender equality, but also it's about being courageous to stand up for injustices and discrimination. It's also about being curious, listen to your stakeholders, and try to understand their views and needs. It's also about being cognizant of your bias to avoid biased decisions. It's about being culturally and emotionally intelligent, collaborative, and consultative. So this may require us to reframe and rethink the current business models. We also need to recognize that every small action counts. So Deloitte research shows that inclusive leadership are twice as likely to meet or exceed financial targets. So I encourage you to start or continue your journey as an inclusive and responsible leader today, and extend an invitation to your company to join the WEPs network of global, inclusive, and responsible leaders and their companies. So now I will hand over stage to Amy to walk us through the 7 principles of the WEPs. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Miwa, and welcome everybody today. And thank you for joining us for this webinar. We're really excited that we've been able to organize this in a time zone that works for the Asia Pacific, but other regions as well. I'm really excited to see in the chat we have so many colleagues joining us from across the world, really. So as Miwa said, I'm going to introduce a little bit about the WEPs and the specific principles that make up this framework, and also share a bit of the business case behind it. I hope most of you are familiar with this, but if not, really gender equality is a human right and it makes sense, but it's also smart for business and it is good for business. So numerous studies have shown that having more gender diverse companies and also inclusive companies bring business benefits as well. They lead to better performance. We actually see major increases in talent attraction and retention. I think especially with shifting demographics, a lot of you may be seeing this on the line with us today, and more Gen Zs that really want and value and are attracted and want to stay in workplaces that offer equal solutions. It increases innovation, creativity, and openness. And it also increases insights into consumer demands. As consumer bases change and also evolve, we need to be able to tap into the mindset by having also a diverse workforce. So stronger sustainability, I think it's already been mentioned. The WEPs links very strongly with ESG and gender equality, not just the S, I think as many people often frame, but with both the E and the G as well. So we see higher ESG rankings and investment appeal, increased green innovation and market leadership by companies that promote gender equality. There's actually a lot of correlation studies. And you also lower your regulatory risks and reputational damage, but increase your brand and reputation by having these practices. And we do also see the bottom line and profitability is actually improved, that companies that invest in gender equality and women's empowerment simply perform better. Okay, into the meat of what the WEPs are. So a set of principles, 7 guiding principles that offer guidance really to businesses of any size and sector across the spectrum, from MSMEs all the way up to large multinational corporates that really have massive value chains. And the really unique approach of the WEPs, which is really the distinct value add, is this value chain approach. There are many other frameworks, as I'm sure many of you are familiar, that touch on leadership and touch on women's equality in the workplace, but none that really take this value chain approach, that look at the workplace, the marketplace, the community, and then also supported by a measurement framework and a strong principle on measurement and reporting. So as we dive into the actual 7 principles, this is just a bit of a primer today on what they are. So we'll explain them to you in a high level. If you decide to become a signatory, we do offer much deeper training and capacity building on these. But I'll give you a bit of a taste today of what they are. So if we could go to the first slide, Miwa. Before we go into this, actually, I always like sharing this slide because we just, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe hit more than 11,000 signatories across the globe. So any private sector entity can become a WEP signatory. You join to become a signatory, and we'll show you how later. In Asia Pacific, more than 50% of our signatories are MSMEs. So as we define it, companies with fewer than 250 employees. We have more than 160 countries covered that have signed onto the WEP. So when you do join, you're in the presence of a really strong global community and network to pull from. Great. Okay, starting with principle 1. So principle 1 on high-level corporate leadership is not about women in leadership necessarily. This is really the fundamental principle and the foundational element of getting that leadership commitment and pace setting for implementing gender equality throughout the organization. We're going to hear from a CEO today on how important this is, and I think some of you may have experienced this. With corporate leadership set as the first principle, this is really what lays the groundwork for commitment and setting targets, setting a strategy for gender equality, engaging different stakeholders to also set that strategy and see how this interacts with your business, but also within the community that you operate in your marketplace as well. Setting those gender action plans with goals and specific targets, looking at how you set policies throughout the organization. And this does also look at reflecting on your own leadership and where you can advance diverse boards, especially for listed companies who can take that action for gender equality and have the influence. So this is why it's principle number one, is really that CEO commitment. Okay, if we move on to the next slide, what we often say is that principles 2, 3, and 4 are the workplace pillar. So there's leadership, workplace, marketplace, and community. Principle 4 blends a little bit into marketplace, but principle 2 is the first one in workplace gender equality. So treating all women and men fairly at work without discrimination. This can start fundamentally with a non-discrimination or equal opportunity policy. And this may cover broad things from just gender equality, also to a more inclusive DEI approach that may include age or ethnicity or LGBTQI plus status, disability inclusion, but laying the groundwork to ensure that across the pipeline, there's no discrimination. This looks especially at recruitment and promotion and how you can take that life cycle approach. Equal pay and benefits is an important element within Principle 2. And this is also where you can, again, look at that pipeline to ensure you're promoting women in leadership and decision-making roles within the company. This is also where you would find, I'm sure all of you are familiar, I hope, and have started hearing more about the care economy and recognizing that women's disproportionate responsibility for cooking, cleaning, taking care of children, or also elderly parents at home has a major impact on their ability to participate equally and also retain in the workforce. So this would also look at flexible work arrangements and arrangements to support women and men in the workplace who have child and other dependent responsibilities. Okay, moving on to Principle 3. This is employee health, well-being, and safety. So we know that the workplace also plays a critical role in providing that environment for employees to have physical well-being, emotional well-being, and really critically safety. So this can look at safe working conditions, especially I think in certain industries that may have been more male dominated, or maybe where the equipment, was designed 30 years ago with only men in mind. And so it may looking at actually infrastructure and how you create safe working conditions. It may look in your supply chain and how you even create safe transport for certain women or populations coming and going to work. This is also crucially where we cover zero tolerance towards violence and sexual harassment. And we have quite strong training programs on preventing, addressing, and dealing with sexual harassment complaints. This is also equal access to health and insurance services, paid time off for medical care and counseling. And I think critically, which comes across all WEPs principles, but especially here as well, is training of staff and managers to recognize how they play an active role in implementing each of these principles. So Principle 4, which is the one that kind of bridges workplace and marketplace, is education and training for career advancement. So this is really critical, we see as well, for promoting women in the workplace, but also supporting to develop that marketplace and get more women into different types of jobs, especially if they've been underrepresented. So this is training for all employees about how the company is advancing gender equality and the role that they're taking, creating that cultural shift, right? I think that's something we always see as really critical, is the mindset shift and creating the culture towards gender equality. This is looking at how you can create equal access to education and training programs, and also opportunities in non-traditional and revenue generating roles. So if you're always holding networking activities at 6 or 7 p.m. at night, where many female employees, especially given the culture, may not be able to join if they need to be at home for caregiving duties, you unintentionally create some of those barriers and some of that discrimination. This is looking at how you can provide mentoring opportunities and you can support women. I think especially we've seen many studies that women tend not to apply for jobs unless they meet 100% of the criteria, where men might meet 60 to 70% and they will apply. So sometimes it's creating that inclusive network as well of mentorship, connection, to promote women to come out for these roles, even when they are very qualified. And unconscious bias training and awareness raising can also come into principle 4. So the next principle 5, we get straight into the marketplace. And this really comprises a few different elements in Principle 5. It's enterprise development, supply chain, and marketing practices. So this is really looking at the critical role of the private sector, really whether you're a small enterprise, but especially if you're a large brand or conglomerate, in influencing the wider business ecosystem and the market. So one element of this principle can be gender responsive procurement and looking at supplier diversity. So we have some specific programs in the Asia Pacific and a training tool assessment tool Miwa will tell you about later, to look at procuring from women-owned and led or women benefiting businesses and companies to increase that procurement spend and also have those ripple effects deeper into the marketplace for gender equality. This could also be looking at women entrepreneurs and addressing credit and lending barriers that we know women entrepreneurs really face, increased barriers with access to technology, traditional loan requirements that require collateral that historically women don't have as much access to as men, or it could even be things like land rights, multitude of barriers that really can access credit and growth of women enterprises. Another element of this really can be gender responsive media and advertising. How are you leveraging your advertising? And this could be, in terms of jobs and hiring, but especially for your external marketing of how you represent gender. How might you be unintentionally reinforcing stereotypes? Or how can you also redesign some of your marketing and advertising to promote different types of gender norms or roles that you can have, whether that's in the use of your products? We've seen advertisements that have, just for example, men in the kitchen doing the dishes for dish soap, right? Rather than always traditionally displaying women in the kitchen. Small things like that can still help create that shift. And then another element, as I mentioned earlier, thinking towards your consumer base, is product service design and delivery for women. We know that women actually in many countries hold the purse, if you will, or really have the biggest purchasing power. And when companies are also looking at diversifying their consumer base, whether they're looking to reach out to people with disabilities or women or youth or older women, having those types of people in your organization and designing specifically for them can really make you more inclusive and ultimately create a more robust supply chain and also increase the bottom line. Okay, moving on to Principle 6. Now we're moving a little bit down into the community. So Principle 6 covers community initiatives and advocacy. So this could really be investing in community development programs to make tangible change and contributions. This can also include a range of different things. This could be your CSR activities and your support. Some of you may have a nonprofit or foundation arm that may be the most engaged in these activities, but also leading by example in the community if you're a small enterprise. Working with community stakeholders, further promoting gender equality or promoting the WEPs, or when you're speaking out in different events to really advocate for gender equality, and I think show by example why your company has committed to promote gender equality. We've also seen a really number of interesting examples in our WEPs awards that you'll hear about a bit later on, of corporates working with NGOs, with research institutions, with governments as well, right? Linking with the public sector and leveraging their influence and their business models as well to make broader change in the community. And this could be through philanthropy and grants as well. Okay, and taking us down, this is the seventh principle, but very much not least. This is kind of really that one that undergirds and supports everything else, right? What gets measured gets managed, right? And what we don't know, we're not able to take action on and change. So really this principle on measurement and reporting is the crucial element of data, right? And knowing where you stand, knowing where you want to go, tracking that data to ensure you can make evidence-informed decisions and results to uphold your commitments. So this is looking at setting those targets and benchmarks, using some of our self-assessment tools, some of our action planning tools that we have. We'll tell you a little bit later about an M&E framework we have for the WEPs that's also been developed looking at global standards. And where you can, reporting progress publicly, right? To really show others where you stand and build that transparency, which also builds more pressure, if you will, on other companies to also stand up and report without having to wait for the stick, so to speak, from the regulators to come in, right? You put those incentives from other large companies as well. And as you'll also hear about, we have a reporting platform on the web. So if you join the WEPs community, we do have a backend platform that enables you to input your data and keep track over time. And we also have a series of tools to help you do this. So this rounds out our fast and furious tour of the WEPs. As we say, and I hope everyone knows too, the WEPs is a journey. And I think you might see this today and think, oh, our company doesn't belong here. There's no way we can do all of this. No company is implementing all 7 WEPs perfectly. The point is really to join this as a journey, to start where you are today, no matter if this is the first time you've heard about the WEPs, right? And you think we've only done one thing, this is too much. We ask you to join us on this journey. So considering we're sharing a little bit more about the WEPs today, and then signing would mean that you join the WEPs. Activating is really helping you take some assessment tools, see where you stand, and then starting to engage. Okay, what do we have resources to do right now? Where can we link with local partners to help us do something right now? Focus. Sustain your efforts, start to measure how things are going, report on your progress, and then again, maybe reactivate, seeing where you stand and really starting that journey together with UN Women, with all of the companies, all the peers here today to make this a continuous commitment and journey. Great. And I think, Miwa, am I handing back to you now or continuing with our toolkits?
Yep, you're continuing until the celebrating emerging cases.
Oh, Miwa?
Can you hear me?
I wonder if
Till
we
the
lost.
emerging cases.
Miwa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I think we lost you for just a minute.
No worries. You can continue until the emerging cases.
Okay, perfect. So I'll take you through a little bit of our resources that we offer, which we kind of call our WEPs toolkit. And this is available for companies. Some of the resources are available for non-WEP signatories and anyone who joins the website, and others are just for WEP signatories. So one thing I did want to showcase today that are unique to the Asia Pacific. We're happy to bring these to other regions as well, and some of them are already starting in other regions. But really, one of the things we like to do is make sure that we harvest from this whole community is what you're doing and your best practices, right? I'm continually amazed at what we hear from the companies and how committed you are. So one of the things we do in Asia Pacific is our WEPs Awards. That we run every 2 years, which is really collecting applications and best practices of what companies are doing. And then the next year, we'll have an Asia Pacific WEPs Forum, which is where we bring all the signatories in the community together in person. We learn from what the awardees have done the previous year and really get together to do a bit of agenda setting, see where we need to make more progress and capacity building towards different areas of action. So I'll be sharing more information on that soon, but if you are in the Asia Pacific, we would love for all of you to join us at the forum. Great.
Thank you, Amy. Now I'm
Here,
going
I'll
to take
hand
over
over
the
to
stage. Perfect. Thank you so much. So as Amy said, we have a lot of tools. We actually offer over 200 tools that can help with your web's journey. So we have various case studies, templates, thematic guides, learning modules, and more that can help you to be one step closer to your gender equality goals. And all the tools are available for free at webs.org. So here are some of the web's tools that could be used throughout your web's journey. And we kind of created a simple Kickstarter kit, if you want to call it that, to kick off with your first steps on gender equality and women's empowerment journey. So first, you can start by assessing your company's current situation when it comes to gender equality and women's empowerment using the web's gender gap analysis tool. Then create a gender action plan based on your result. You can use other web's toolkits to guide you to check if you're on the right track to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in your workplace, marketplace, and community. And let me go over some of the details of some tools today for you. And then, great. So the first one is Gender Gap Analysis Tool. So this tool offers 18 multiple choice questions that covers commitment to a gender equality strategy, topics that include equal pay, recruitment, supporting parents and caregivers, women's health, inclusive sourcing and hiring, and some advocacy for gender equality in communities of operation. So anyone can use this tool to assess the company's strategic approach to gender equality and identify your gaps and opportunities for continuous improvements and learn about the best practices or good practices on gender equality globally. More importantly, as a result, you can set concrete goals and targets and measure your company's progress over time. So upon finishing your analysis, you'll be assigned a different level depending on your score from beginner, improver, achiever to leader. And you're going to get a heat map that tells you where are your areas of weakness and where are your areas of relative strength. So you'd know where to focus your resources and more. And the result is completely confidential and it's free and again available to everyone who wants to take this tool. Then what do you do with the result from the gender gap analysis tool? So we do provide a module to support companies with creating gender action plan. So gender action plan module is our roadmap for the process of developing a gender equality and women's empowerment action plan. In combination with the web's gap analysis tool, it can help the company embed gender equality into its business model and contains a succinct compilation of goals, indicators, and targets. So we provide a gender action plan module for those who are interested in creating one, and we have a template as well for you to use along with this module. And this could be also used to verify to see if your current action plan is not missing anything and for you to understand where your company is standing and where you need to go. And then we have a very specialized tool to support web signatories to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in the supply chain, as Amy mentioned. So the web's gender responsive procurement tool, or we call it the GRP tool, it can help companies to advance gender equality in their marketplace by providing the opportunity to assess if your company's current procurement policies and practices are gender responsive. So we have been encouraging our signatories to take it and even further encourage their suppliers to take this to create an impact for the whole ecosystem. And it's available for web signatories only and is free of charge. Lastly, another tool that will help you to measure and monitor your company's progress is the Transparency and Accountability Framework. So this framework provides companies with a holistic set of indicators that covers from workplace, marketplace, community, and leadership that are most likely to advance gender equality across your corporate value chain aligned with existing corporate gender equality frameworks. So there are 5 types of indicators from baseline, essential, complementary, input and support measures to additional indicators, and they are designed to provide companies on indicators for workplace, marketplace, and community. So you can use this to set up your company's KPIs for advancing gender equality and women's empowerment instead of developing one from scratch that your company may need to measure and track. So now I am going to move on to explain the joining process of the webs. So joining the WEPs is a very simple process, but first it's important to check if you're eligible. WEPs is a private sector initiative, and you are eligible if your company is legally registered and a for-profit company. We are accepting Chamber of Commerce, business associations, and industry association as well. In fact, those are normally we'd call exceptional, though they are not legally registered as companies. But we appreciate the importance that you hold in your business ecosystem and your influence in your society as well to move your have an influence in your businesses. So unfortunately, with that said, we are not accepting non-government organizations and other nonprofits at this point in time, or government agencies cannot sign on to the WEPs. So once you have confirmed your eligibility, you can go to our website, www.weps.org/join, and fill out the form and submit the form. The form is very self-explanatory, and you need to provide the information requested in each section. And there are a few things I'd like to emphasize for filling out the form. So the first CEO statement of support needs to be signed with the date by the CEO or the person with the highest decision-making authority in your company. The date is important because this date will be the date that shows up on your profile page as the date your company has joined the WEPs. And the CEO statements need to be signed by a highest decision maker of your company. The person is generally called the CEO, but he or she may be called differently, like managing director, chairman, president, chairperson. Just keep in mind that the idea here is, like Amy said, to get the buy-in from the highest decision maker of the company to sign on to the WEPs. Then for the CEO quote, we'd like you to answer how will your company contribute to gender equality, and tell us why this agenda matters to you and to your company, for about 4 to 5 lines, which is around 150 to 200 words. And maybe share how you have been doing or planning to work on it if you haven't done so. Lastly, CEO photo is also important. We only accept professional headshot, and no logo only picture is accepted. If you want to learn more about the eligibility criteria or the steps of joining the WEPs, please feel free to ask us in the chat, in the Q&A box, or you can visit our website and you'll find a FAQ page from our website, and you'll be able to read about it. So I hope that you found these tools and signing up process tips useful for you to consider joining the WEPs. And all these tools are available on weps.org. And if you have any questions, please do let us know. And this is your chance today. But before we answer your question now, I will be inviting 3 WEP signatories to share their WEPs journey. So please welcome Carolina Bugaian, from General Director of Moldcell from Moldova, Kavita Dasan, a Group Talent Management Head from Suzlon Energy from India, Xueqing, ESG Manager of LONGi from China. And let me hand it over to my colleague Amy to moderate today's roundtable session. So over to you, Amy.
Great. Thanks so much, Miwa. And thank you so much for joining us, Kavita, Carolina, and Xueqing. I wonder if we can start just with asking each of you to briefly introduce yourselves and the companies that you represent. And maybe I'll just go in the order that we see on the slide. So Carolina, can we start with you?
Yes, thank you so much, Amy, and Miwa, for this invitation. It is really an honor and a pleasure to be here. Although my company is not as part of Asia Pacific, I'm based in Moldova. It is Central and Eastern Europe. It is a small country of 2.5 million population between Ukraine and Moldova and Romania. And I'm the CEO of a telecom operator, which is normally a very man industry, telecom. Since 2020, we are part of CG Corp Global, which is a conglomerate originating from Nepal. So we do have a link to Asia Pacific region, because they are operating on 167 companies across 16 countries. And I'm very, very happy to be part of this WEPs journey, because I'm a big promoter of women economic empowerment and a harmonious development of the society where both women and men contribute to the sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolina. And maybe Kavita, we'll hand over to you next.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, the entire WEPs team, Miha. Is my audio clear? Is the audio?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you. So I'm very excited to be here. And thank you, Carolina. What a wonderful introduction. I'm from India. I'm part of a company called Suzlon Energy. We are in the business of manufacturing wind turbines with a global presence of about 17 countries, 6 continents, and growing. We are the one-third contributor in terms of the kind of wind energy business that we do in India. We are the one-third contributors. In terms of sustainability, while these things are very deep-rooted because that's the company's core ethos, the diversity piece for us becomes a little new because while those principles and ethos remains, but as a practice, the journey starts. So very excited to be the global talent head here, managing the transformation, as we call it, for the organization. So that's me, and happy to be part of the web.
Great. Thank you so much, Kavita. Xueqing, we'll go hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting, and it's a really great honor to be here and to share our experiences with WEPs and also with UN Women. I'm Xueqing Yang, and I'm from LONGi Green Energy Technology Company, and our headquarters is in Xi'an, China, but actually we are a global leading solar technology companies, which cover more than 150 countries in the world. And actually we have the mission of to make the best of solar technology to build a green world. So generally we're a company that dedicating to provide clean and affordable and accessible clean energy for all. So and also I'm from the ESG team of the LONGi, and we're really happy to join the WEPs last year. And yep, that's my introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And while you were speaking, actually, Xueqing, I might pass the first question over to you. So tell us, why did your company decide to sign the WEPs, and what are some of the benefits you've seen of joining the WEPs?
Yeah, sure. Actually, because we're from the ESG team, and actually because LONGi actually was founded in 2000, and also we're becoming the publicly listed in the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So we're listed companies. So we are a lot of clients and regulators, actually they're focusing on this topic. And every time we have like connecting or we are participating in some international events, they're gonna be the topic about diversity, the gender equality, and also because we're the solar technology company, so we're providing our products and our green technologies to help the women to enjoy the clean energy, to enjoy the green electricity. So it's probably our focus as well. So I think that's a really important and most important perspective of why we are joining the WEPs. And also because you have mentioned when you're for your introduction, we ES team, and so we have the ESG ratings. So there's some ESG ratings like MSCI. They are actually focusing on the gender equality, especially the percentage of women in the board. That's very important indicators for ESG ratings for MSCI. So I think that's 2 reasons we focus on the gender equality. And there's also very important reasons because it's pretty interesting because for the ESG team, we have 1 male team leader, and we have 5 person in this team, and other than the male leaders, we are all females. So we would like to use our leverage to promote the gender equality and diversity in working environment for the working workplace. So I think that's the last very important reason as well for us to promote the gender equality and to join the WEPs. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. It's great to hear that from energy sector as well. And similarly, actually, maybe turning over, we'll go from solar tech to wind turbines. Kavita, would you like to chime in on why you've joined the WEPs and some of the benefits you've seen?
So typically, if we talk about Suzlon's ethos, they're rooted in sustainability and empowerment deeply. As a company, we believe in that philosophy. And WEPs offered a global framework that mirrored our values. It was very natural for us to get into that commitment. Also, when we were getting into this commitment of putting the DIB as a leader, for me, the bigger challenge was how do we get the accountability? See, one is we are starting the journey. It's also about committing it. When we go on a global forum and commit, then our commitment level, it's not just about doing, but also living up to that commitment. So it really worked. At least it worked on our leaders brilliantly. So institutionalizing the intentions is very important. Signing up with the WEB's reinforcement, it reinforced our commitments to the gender equality by transitioning into, our intentions are now very much aligned with the actionables and the 7 principles. So we put our charters in line with that, and it becomes more of a reiterating for managers. Also, the benefits that we see typically is leadership accountability. When our group CEO himself is a signatory, there's a lot of things that helps. When the leader himself stands on the board and says, I'm the signatory, then it's an easy walk for others to follow, because then it's a commitment. And as an organization, when we commit, we stand by it. So, for us, it really helped built in a lot of psychological uh, pressure on our leaders by saying that, now that we are committed to it, we might as well live up with it. So all our charters, everything gets absolutely, circled back to it. Also, it's a global recognition. It strengthens our positioning globally in terms of being a responsible employer, help attracting diverse talent, deepens investor and partners' trust. It just amplifies the impact.
Great. Thank you. Fabulous. Great to hear that, really. And finally, Carolina, would you like to tell us about your company's WEPs journey of joining?
Yes, thank you so much. We are at Moldcell, well, we are a purpose-driven company, and we say that at Moldcell we bring the entire world into your hands so that you can enjoy life even more. It might sound very philosophical, but it is about empowerment. It is about giving equal access, equal rights to everyone, to digital technology, digital solution, financial solutions, because we are also providing mobile financial services. It is access to knowledge, so that everyone, by having equal access, can become everything he or she strives for. And for Moldcell, signing WEPs is also kind of proving that, yes, we are very committed to gender equality and following it. Moreover, in 2020, when we were acquired by Chaudhary Group, our chairman of the board, Mr. Nirvana Chaudhary, he is also very much supporting the gender equality, and under his vision we have also signed the MOU. It was the first company in Moldova that signed an MOU with United Nations to support the SDGs, and we have also opened a Moldcell Foundation where we are also promoting digital inclusion services and knowledge base, and also STEM for girls, and future technologies based knowledge in the universities, in order to really create inside the company this vibe of inclusion, but also outside, because being a telecom operator, of course, you don't touch just your customers, which we have half of the population, but also the entire society as your customer. And we are also we are not listed company, but we have already, for the second year in a row, we are creating an ESG report and publishing it. And I think that by being a role model, you also promote this hype in the market. And we do have one woman in our board of directors, non-executive director. In general, in company, we have 40% of women, although it is, again, it is a technology company and it is assumed to be most men only. But we are promoting through also being a website signatory. We have 8 women in our management position and 7 women directors out of 10. So we are really dedicated to promote it. And one of the benefits is also a recognition. Countrywide, we have won the Gold Mercury Trophy for Women in Business. Also, we have won the World Communication Awards in terms of people and culture because of the values that we are promoting of inclusive workplace. And we have been also shortlisted as Women in Telecommunication for the World Communication Awards last year. So besides doing good in the society, it also comes with a price, with additional recognition and brand empowerment on the market, which is very good, not only locally, but also globally. And especially if you are a global company, it really creates an additional value for your brand.
Fabulous. Great. Thank you. I think I'll ask one final rapid kind of 1-minute question, so we have a little bit of time for audience Q&A. I know these discussions, I would always just love to dive in and have another hour to discuss. But maybe we'll start with Xueqing again. As a leading company, right, and gender equality and having committed to the WEPs, what recommendations or advice would you have for companies just getting started on that journey?
Yeah. I think just like you mentioned, maybe submit the form. I think it may be the easiest part of this journey because the form is really clear and there's no really too much information you have to fill out. But before that, actually, preparation is the most difficult or challenging because first of all, make sure you really know what WEPs are because you have to communicate with your internal department division, like you have to communicate with your CEO why we're using your code to sign this initiative, to join this forum, and what can it bring us. And second, you have to know what you have to negotiate with the department like HR, human resources department, because there are a lot of actions or policies, they have to assist you or they have to support you. Otherwise, there's no way you can join the WEPs or you can make it implement. So first, you have to know the WEPs very well. So I would recommend the sectors or enterprises who are preparing to join the WEPs first to join the preparation, a meeting, or the events organized by the UN Women China and or UN Women, and to know really to know more about what the WEPs are and how you understand it, what you're going to deal with. And second, you have to know internally who you're talking to. For example, you have to know for some principles, you may have to talk to the human resources department. Because, for example, if you want to promote some actions or policies for hiring, you have to talk to them. You want to eliminate discrimination when you're hiring people, you have to make some policies with your human resources department. And there are also some principles that with supply chain. For example, the supplier diversity and gender responsive supply chain, you have to work with supply chain. You have to work with the department. So and also for the safety, you have to work with EHS. So you have to know who you're going to talk to internally. I think that's pretty important because you have to sit together and to see what we can do and what we are now and what we are going to do and what we can report. So I think that would be the 2 advices and the recommendations I offer for the enterprises who are going to join the WEPs. I think that's pretty important based on our experiences. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. That's really, really good advice. I think the cross-department collaboration too is really critical, right? If it's just HR, it's not going to work, right? Or if it's just the ESG team, yeah, it won't be integrated throughout. Maybe Kavita, I'll hand to you next as well for any advice or recommendations you would have.
Sure, sure. See, for us, when we started our journey, it was far more challenging because wind turbine as an industry is a very alpha-dominated industry. Uh, Mostly the myth in India, or it's a mindset barrier, which I say, has been that turbines are all for men to manage and women can't be in those areas because they're also away from city limits. Uh, we started with leadership conversation. So presenting a lot of data on women representation, attrition, barriers that were presented to internal stakeholders, a lot of discussion around that. And then we started with formation of DIB Council. The council was chaired by the leadership itself. So, right from the CEO to CHRO to the senior CXOs of the company, they were part of the council. So when they become the council member and they review the situation every quarter, there is that level of seriousness that brings in. It becomes a lot more easier. We also started with building compelling cases, framing inclusion as business critical to unlock Gen Z talent. We introduced our first woman all empty batch, bringing in resilient teams, women hired in mid and senior management roles, meeting ESG goals. That's equally important. You know, and then we linked gender diversity to outcomes of recruitment, engagement, development, and retention. Sorry, my examples are all from HR because I lead HR. And I'm more trying to give a perspective because Caroline is there for the business perspective and we have the ESG representation. So, and then championing lead push, so we created a framework and a DIB platform, we call it internally Spectrum, bringing in external DIB champions who could talk about it and bring that level of seriousness. I think for us, that momentum actually helped when they started seeing newer hires, women in leadership roles. That was something which became a success story for us. And of course, signing up for WEPs became more a natural way rather than a forced way. And that really became a part of us. Our GPT scores, especially for the women cohort, also was very helpful. From 2024 to 25, we see a great change because of our increased sustainable efforts. And definitely women-focused policies help. My only recommendation would be that don't wait for 100% readiness. Use the WEPs as catalyst, growth catalyst. Start small, identify key champions, build momentum with data, and pilot women-focused initiative before scaling. It really helps for organizations who are taking the first steps.
Great. Thank you, Kavita. And Carolina, over to you as well.
Thank you very much. It's difficult to give any additional advice. What I would like to recommend, look at all of your stakeholders. And depending on what is important for them, what is their target, find the right message to give. If it is ESG, it is about reporting, it is about the good progress. If it is about HR, yes, then you give the big perspective of a bigger market, of more inclusive or more diverse. If it is you are talking to your sales team, tell them, for example, in Moldova, we have 53% population are women. So having WEPs signature is also showing that you are supporting women, and it is a higher chance for you to do more sales also to your women customer base. So it is when working on this, it is very important to understand who are your stakeholders and what are their needs, so that you can indeed have a good buy-in at all levels. And then already looking at those 7 principles and really looking at your baseline and seeing how you can achieve the targets based by your stakeholders and who could help you is very important in that. If you think that it is too difficult to start, just submit the form and it will come step by step. because indeed everywhere we also have in all countries we do have a lack of talents, and by involving more women in the workplace and providing them more opportunities along with the men, indeed we are creating much more innovative environment with much more perspective to look at, and then definitely are coming up with much better products to the market, serving the entire society.
That's fabulous. Thanks. I think you guys make our job easy as well to promote the WEPs. It's so great to hear all of this and about the approaches you're taking. And I think really important to note, just start, right? Just get started and use the WEPs as the leverage to build that momentum, not necessarily as the thing to only do once you're 100% ready. We do have a few questions that have come in that I'd like to pose to all of you. And I know we're due to end in 4 minutes, but I hope it's all right if we go over just potentially a few minutes. And if people want to stay with us, I'm gonna pose the first question relates to leadership. And I'm going to kind of combine two different questions that we got, which we do often hear quite a bit. So the first question is kind of how can, ESG or HR or sustainability employees make a stamp when board and management are predominantly men, and they may be men with more traditional views. So how do you find that you build that leadership buy-in, or that you also deal with these situations? And I think in a somewhat related situation, which we have experienced, is how do you manage a change of leadership when you had one person at the top that advocates for gender equality, and then it shifts to someone who may not be as committed to navigate that. And this is really a question open for anyone who would like to come in, if any of you feel compelled to answer.
I can share my experience.
Sure.
We are equally traditional company. When we started our journey, we were at 1.5% gender representation as compared to the entire workforce. So just 1.5% gender representation. So very traditional, very conventional, and a bunch of engineers, if I must say. So, everything is very rigid. And, it starts with a high level leadership commitment when you're talking to the leader, present business case with the logic, but also try to make them accountable by becoming the CEO of the council or the chairperson of the council. For us, the game changer was that our chairman of DIB council is our GCEO, not even the HR head, the CEO himself. So I think for us, that became an easy. When we presented the business case, he also felt strongly, to be fair, and it just worked. But also then the leadership across levels, they need to be convinced to go with the journey. So they would all say, it's all good to have, but not for me, not for my business. Do it for some other person, and that's where you start bringing in the changes. Some early success need to be highlighted. Some failures will also happen. A person may come because the environment is not conducive, may not want to work. Be with it, be at it. Sometimes you will have to make a measurement of ensuring that policies are one part of it, creating a lot of sensitivity workshops and inclusive workshops helps. For us, a lot of change happened when entire leadership had to go through mandatory DIB sensitivity, gender inclusive workshops. That's when they started understanding, and they could also relate with a lot of issues in their personal lives. We bring whole to work. It's never an individual. So when they are able to connect those dots, it becomes a lot more easier. And then the final one is ensuring that every leader has it on his scorecard. You have that weightage in your KRA that makes it that much more easier. But that's a journey. Bringing it to KRA is an outcome. So this is a lot of internal advocacy, and allyship is what you need to promote before you're able to get everybody on board.
Great. Thank you, Kavita. Carolina or Xueqing, do either of you want to come in on that question?
Actually, what I wanted to mention again, that you need to talk into the language that the stakeholder understands. If you have a man CEO, engineer or talk numbers, make business cases, provide arguments that person understands, and definitely it will work. Of course, now the entire society and the hype in the society is also supporting this. So put also the person on the spotlight, take to public events, show that due to his contribution, this is what company has achieved. There are multiple of instruments that you could use, knowing about the stakeholder.
Thank you. Xueqing, did you also want to come in?
Yeah, I just have one or two sentences since our time is pretty limited. I think it's promoting gender equality is not only about women, and we're really happy we can involve men in this progress and in this journey. So I think you may have to take some time to influence or make some impact internally. For example, before when we are preparing for the WEPs, we have organized several events, or we have involved our high-level officer to participate in some workshop or some side events related to the gender equality, and to give him some sense. Oh, okay, there's a topic, and there's more and more people talking about it. And then second, I think it's about risks. Because some people who like our high-level officers, they might worried about what if we signed the WEPs, but we cannot report it on time, or we cannot report the progress as they required. Is there any progress? Is there any risks? I think that's one of you have to ensure they understand there's no risk, or there's no compulsory risk you have to deal with. So maybe that would be the perspective you can enter and to make some impact. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. And we did have two other questions that I think were a little bit more for UN Women. So one person asked, how do we actually monitor our progress and our engagements once we start, and what's expected of signatories to report after they sign up? And also, can UN Women come and deliver webinars or sessions on the WEPs? And is there a fee behind these? So I might just hand it to Miwa briefly to answer these for us.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. So for the second question regarding UN Women's webinar and training. So as you are attending right now, so UN Women team is offering global sessions like this for you to understand what the WEPs are and what is the business case. And we actually had one yesterday. We also host deep dive webinars to understand and go into a topic that's related to gender equality, or a topic that may seem it's not related to gender equality, but we are giving that gender equality perspective. So we are offering that opportunity for all the signatories and beyond. With that said, UN Women do engage with web signatory companies to give an overview of the WEPs, or have a workshop on the WEPs at a company level. But also it also depends on our country office and regional offices, their availability and their situation in different cases. So please do reach out to the WEPs Secretariat, and I'll be sharing our email in the chat. And if you have any cases, you can bring on to us. And regarding monitoring, so we do encourage web signatories to report on their progress on weps.org. So we are encouraging companies to report on their progress in 8 outcome indicators that are related to the workplace issue. So how many new hire were women versus men, how many percentage of senior leadership that's women, and if you have any grievance mechanism on sexual harassment, etc. So we are asking those type of questions. And again, we are encouraging companies. With that said, not everyone is reporting publicly, but a lot of companies are coming to us and reporting privately, because you have an option. And once you become a signatory, and if you're interested in learning more about how to report and on your progress, we are hosting WEPs induction webinars every quarter for us to go over how to report and how to report on your progress, and how to become a more active web signatory. And we tell you on how to use our weps.org website and etc. So to stay tuned on our website and follow us on LinkedIn, and so you can receive the latest updates regarding the WEPs and etc. With that said, we are 5 minutes over time, and I wanted to thank everyone, all the panelists and Amy and all of you for joining us today and spending this time. So when you're exiting this webinar, you will be getting an evaluation survey. So please do fill out. We look into them and we look into the result to improve our future content. So with that said, I hope all of you consider signing the WEPs, and if you have any question, please do reach out to the WEP Secretariat. We are always open. So everyone, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. And we'll hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.